Hello, everyone. I am Tyler Caldwell, and with me is Omar de Frias from Fratello Cigars. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with us and doing some content with us and just sharing the love of the leaf with us.
Brother, it's my pleasure. It is my pleasure. Anytime I get a chance to get away from the Washington D.C. area and enjoy a little bit of sea weather,
Sure.
somehow
Yeah.
close by, it always makes me feel even better.
So while you're here, folks who don't know, like we live here on the East Coast, on the beach side of the world. You're going to enjoy a cigar on the beach while you're in town?
Nah, man, it's too cold.
Too cold?
Listen, I can't do it. I've tried multiple times. You know, I'm Dominican, right? So born and raised in the Caribbean. We don't do cold weather smoking. You know what I mean? Like we're very careful about that.
Sure.
Get pneumonia or something like that. You don't know what you're gonna get.
Absolutely.
You gotta be careful. So always hot weather.
So let's get into it here. Let's let the folks know who are watching this video with us here. Who are you and what is Fratello? Like where does the name Fratello come from? What made you get into this business?
Yeah.
Like where did it all begin?
So we got a crazy story, guys. I started Fratello in 2013, and you've known a little bit about my story already in the past, but I'll share everybody with you here. I've been smoking cigars since I was like 17, 18 years old. I grew up in the Dominican Republic, but what drove me the most about anything else in the whole wide world was basketball. I just wasn't that good. You know what I mean? At least I
You've got
wish
the height for it, just maybe not quite the skill set.
I got the 6'9", man. I tried. I played pro ball in the Dominican Republic, thinking it was going to give me that next hoop to go to go pro in the U.S. But clearly that didn't happen. I did play NCAA upstate New York, Rochester Institute of Technology, but I had terrible knees, man, and I ended up changing my MBA dream for an MBA. So I got a master's in business administration out of the University of Puerto Rico in Mayagüez. And that is when NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, ended up recruiting me to go work for them when I was 25, 26 years old. And I started my career in the federal government of the United States. NASA is a very unique agency with a very unique, noble mission. And one of the things that I was very driven into when I got into the agency was just make processes and process management much better, which was it is my background. I ended up spending 12 years at NASA. Those 12 years, I ended up, in a multitude of jobs. I ended up being an IT program and project manager to the last job that I had, which was the director of the budget execution for the Science Mission Directorate at NASA headquarters in Washington, D.C. So I was managing a $5.2 billion budget for the agency. I loved what I did, but there was something always inside of me, Tyler, that wanted to pursue something entrepreneurial, something that would give me a different purpose and a different meaning. And so I was sent a beautiful address by Steve Jobs in Stanford, where I had heard this guy, heard this word spoken out multiple times, which is he said that the only way to do great work is to love what you do. And I was struggling at that time with the agency to do something that was very powerful, that was something that I just absolutely loved, because I know that if I would fall in love with something, I would just give it my all. And so I started thinking about a few things that I loved, and obviously cigars was always in the high on my list, because I've been smoking cigars for so long. So I said, where do I fit into this whole world? Do I fit into the distribution? Do I fit into the retail? Do I fit into the brand management? Do I fit into actually going back to the Dominican Republic and working on the fields, because my family has a lot of land in the Dominican Republic as well? There was as everybody knows who's in the cigar industry, there's so many areas where you can fall into. Branding for me was something that was an absolutely no-brainer for me to get into. I wanted to create something that was different from everybody else, and that's even when we sat down, not only with our manufacturing partners, which is Joya de Nicaragua. I was one of the very few new brands that they had picked up in 2013 to produce, because they at that time also were being distributed by Georgia State, so they had an agreement where they couldn't do brands for anybody else. So for 2 years, I had to say that I was just some random factory in Nicaragua producing my cigars. So imagine trying to sell a cigar like that, bro. It's really hard. But I also wanted to create something that was different to the eyes, right? So we created the first cigar band that actually angles around the cigar, easy to peel in the back. It's something that annoyed the heck out of me. Every single time I would peel a band, it would always take away a little bit of the wrapper, and so I hated that. But we ended up creating Fratello, and this is the first cigar that we ever launched. I know it was a long answer to your question, but it's important to give it a little bit of context.
Well, of course, you gotta let the people know all the details if
Yeah,
they want to
man.
understand the story. Where does the name Fratello come from?
It's my nickname from college, man.
Okay.
Guys, I could not walk away from this name, man. It was
All right, I gotta know now. A nickname. So how do you get the nickname Fratello?
I was taking an Italian class, right? And the only reason I was taking this Italian class is because I was in love with the teacher. This woman was a beautiful Italian, gorgeous olive skin, driving me crazy. And I was like, hey, I'm gonna go take the class and shoot my best shot and see how it goes. That ended up not working out, but what did work out was that I learned that a brother meant in Italian, the translation was fratello.
Oh.
So I left the course and I was done with the classes, and I started calling people, hey, what's up, my brother? What's up, my fratello?
Okay.
And people started calling me my fratello. I'm like, brother, don't call me my fratello. Like, I'm calling you. Brother, the more that I battled that name, the more it stuck with me. It was impossible to break away from it. So I literally land in the Dominican Republic and say, hey, my fratello, ven acá. It's crazy. But there you go. That's the name of the brand.
I mean, to be fair, like you could be called worse nicknames.
You don't choose your parents or your nickname in the DR, bro. That's for sure. There's no Black Mamba over here.
So you said Fratello started in 2013?
Yeah.
And you obviously started with the Classico. Do you want to breach on any of the other lines that you've come out with since then?
Yeah, man. After Fratello Classico, which is our classic brand, is the number one best-selling cigar we have on our lineup is the Fratello Classico. We launched the Fratello Bianco. At that time, I wanted to try to work with tobaccos from a lot of different regions. A lot of people usually, and this is something that is a big misconception, when we're talking about Dominican cigars or Nicaraguan cigars, we're really talking about the manufacturing, right? Where are you putting together the tobaccos that are going to be something that you as a consumer will enjoy? So one of the things that I was trying to do was tell the story of multiple countries. And so with the case of the Fratello Classico, for example, we use a tobacco that I am obsessed with, which is tobacco from Peru. So it has Tarapoto Peruvian tobacco on the filler. We put Ecuadorian tobacco on the binder, and then we put a Nicaraguan wrapper on this. But on my follow-up, that's already 3 countries on this, right? On the follow-up, which is the Bianco, on the Bianco, we actually put tobacco from 5 different countries. It's, I always call it combustible chocolate, brother.
Okay.
Because it is delicious. Now, it's got a Mexican wrapper. It's got tobacco from Peru in the filler. It's got tobacco from USA, Pennsylvania broadleaf. And then we put tobacco from Dominican Republic as well. And what's unique about this, I feel like, is those are the only time where you will see Mexico and USA getting along so well on that cigar. No tariffs on that cigar, buddy.
Okay. All right.
So unique, I can say that.
Very cool, man. And so I know you have a Connecticut version to go along with it as well.
I do. I have a Connecticut shade, which is the third iteration of my core line. So we went through the Fratello Classico, that Peruvian tobacco filler, very unique. We went through the Fratello Bianco, which is, again, combustible chocolate, man. It is the cocoa, and it imparts so beautiful cocoa notes. And then we launched the Fratello Oro in 2016, and that became my number 2 best-selling cigar up to this point. This cigar is very unique for me, man, because we put tobacco again. We were telling the story of multiple countries, right? So in the case of the Dominican Republic, I wanted to manufacture this at the La Aurora factory in the DR, which is also the first company that I ever tried a cigar from was from La Aurora. So I had a personal connection with that brand already because you always remember your first, let's be honest, right?
Right.
So the Fratello Oro is something that we put together with tobacco from 5 different countries, including Ecuador on the wrapper. It's like an Ecuador Connecticut shade. We put Dominican tobacco on the filler. We put Colombian tobacco, Cubita tobacco from Colombia, which is beautiful, earthy notes on that. We also put tobacco from Africa on the binder of the cigar and Nicaragua on the filler. So 5 country blend that I'm telling you right now is just a gorgeous harmony of different flavors, right? So much cheaper for me, guys, to put together a cigar like that, where I'm using just mostly tobacco from Nicaragua and an Ecuadorian wrapper. I'll sell 20, 25 points all day long. But because I wanted to create something that was unique and something that was different, the Fratello Oro definitely fit the mold.
Very cool. So, we've gotten to touch base about your core lines, what kind of got you started. Me personally, when I think of Fratello, I think of Arlequin.
Yeah.
Especially in the Connecticut.
Yeah.
That is my personal favorite cigar that you've put out far.
Thank you. Big fan of Arlequin. So a lot of people don't know the story of Arlequin, but the Arlequin line Arlequin is a character from the 16th century Italian opera that you would be surprised, but in the Dominican Republic, this character is very popular. And it's very popular because when I was 10, 12 years old, there was this play in one of the most popular theaters in the Dominican Republic. And this play was all about Arlequin. And so I remember this so well because I was fascinated with this character because it was a buffoon. He was funny, he would dance, and he would be jovial, and he would have a lot of colors. So I was like, man, I kind of relate a little bit of that, except for the whole bunch amount of colors, but I do relate with the funny, and I do relate with the dancing with this character. But it was a brand that was created from that as an inspiration, right? And obviously in conjunction with the continuation of Fratello as being the name of the company being an Italian brand. So what we ended up doing with Arlequin is I also wanted to, when people think about brands and they think about cigars, one of the things that always gets lost in translation is that the brand must match the cigar.
Right.
If you are not doing that, there will be some problems for you in the retail environment. People are just not going to connect with the brand. There's going to be some sort of issue with the consumer understanding what the hell is it that they're looking at, right? So that's the biggest issue.
Yeah, if you're going to tell a story, you got to stay in the same page.
100%. 100%. And I'll tell you how that also played against me, and when I'll tell you the story about the NASA-inspired exclusive cigars that we launched, where something similar to that happened, but it was not, the message wasn't conveyed too clearly. So when we launched the Arlequin, I wanted a cigar that was a straight up medium body cigar. I didn't want a cigar that was just like, oh my God, you have to sit down and really understand the flavors, really understand, what is the complexity all about. I wanted to make a box press line that was phenomenal, medium body. I don't want you to think about no lead pencil aromas, or I want you to think about leather or this and that. I want you to just enjoy the blend, right? Because that is what Arlequin was, just something to enjoy, something to see, something flavorful, and that's it.
Okay.
So when we launched it, it became very quickly one of the brands under my lineup that has been rated the highest out of everything else I produce, and that's commendable, right? Because remember, this is a cigar that I launched in 2013, and it probably has won every award on the Sun, right? Like Classico's got 91 points in Aficionado, 92 points in Cigar Snob. I mean, you name it, it's gone. And the same thing with the Oro, same thing with the Bianco with 93 plus points. But Arlequin, I have never had a brand where the Classic, the Corona, the Robusto, the Toro, and the Gordo all got 91 points plus in 1 year with Cigar Aficionado, as an example. Top 25 cigars of the year for Cigar Snob, top 25 cigars of the year for Dojo. I mean, you name it, the Arlequin has gotten that message. And so it is a product that I take a lot of pride, because when we're talking about a cigar that I basically smoke every morning with my coffee, it has to be the Arlequin right now. It used to be the Fratello Classico, I go back and forward between both of them, but I am obsessed with the Arlequin.
Sure.
Gotta try
Rightfully
it.
so.
Yeah, man. And you've had the Arlequin Connecticut. What are your thoughts on the Arlequin Connecticut?
That was my first cigar of this morning. I had it with a cup of coffee. It was delicious. I like you said, like it's a perfect cigar for any time of the day.
Yeah.
It's not something you have to sit and reflect on.
Yeah.
But it's got enough characteristics of it to where you might take a couple puffs, like, ooh, like, let me ponder on this a little bit, right? But it's a best of both worlds type of cigar.
100%.
Anyone and everyone, whether it's your first cigar you've ever smoked or your 10,000th cigar you've ever smoked. Like it's going to fit for everybody.
Yeah, no, and it's also the easiest blend, one of the easiest blends I've ever done because, and at the same time, one of the hardest ones I've ever done because when I created the Arlequin Connecticut, I had been working already on 8 different brands on 8 different cigars for me to choose from, and I already kind of had which ones were my top favorites. That could be the Arlequin at the end of the day. But then I told the factories, like, let's mix it all up. Like, give me this 4 right here and add the Classico Arlequin, okay? Same basically cigar that we launched on that San Andres. But instead of putting the San Andres, just simply put the Connecticut shade. Don't do anything else. Just send me that. But don't put it as that I know which one it is because I don't want my brain to kind of like be affected by that. And sure enough, man, when I did the review, and I don't consider myself a master blender, but I do consider myself a master tester, and I tested the living bejesus out of that, man. And I am telling you, it was so far above everything else that there was no brainer. So it was born literally of me just wrapping the wrapper and saying, "This is the Arlequin Connecticut with a Connecticut shade." Very
cool. So, a little bit ago you mentioned some NASA exclusives. Tell me a little bit about that.
So, remember how I told you that a brand needs to match, the cigar, right? So, in the case of the Naveta, which was the first cigar that I launched, I always call the Naveta, guys, a cigar that if my daughter ever were to get married, she's only 19 years old, man. So hopefully she doesn't make daddy's mistakes and does it way past 30. But if she were ever to get married, that's the one that's going to go to the wedding. I am obsessed with Naveta. It is, out of everything I produce, it has a 4-year-old aged tobacco in the filler. We use a beautiful Ecuadorian Oscuro wrapper on this. It ages the best out of everything else we have in our lineup. Here's the kicker and what happened with Naveta, and that's the reason we're now redesigning the box and changing a few things. I made the box literally look like a space shuttle tile. So because I worked at NASA and I worked as a support analyst on about 6 space shuttle missions myself. This was me paying homage to my time at NASA and the space shuttle program and the people that worked so hard to be able to build this beautiful shuttle. But the kicker is when I put it into that box and I made it into a beautiful matte color, when you open up the box, it has in the inside basically a picture of what the space shuttle tile, the bed of the space shuttle as it descends, this is what protects the orbiter from disintegrating in over 3,000 plus degrees Fahrenheit as it comes in on re-entry, right? So I try to make it to have that look and feel. We even put the numbering system of each tile in the front of each box. And then each brand has a name that is attached to a particular shuttle. So we got like the Robusto Discovery, we got the Boxer Atlantis, and we got like the Toro Endeavor, right? So when I presented this product, the consumer didn't understand it necessarily what I was trying to do because it was too complicated. You got to make it sometimes much easier, much simple. The band is beautiful, but the box itself, people just didn't connect it. It was just another black box. And so they didn't understand the name either. Naveta means shuttle in Italian. So there was a lot of elements onto the brand that were really cool and really unique, but that necessarily didn't translate. But the cigar is outstanding. The blend is out of this world, literally. And it is one that allowed me to do the transition to what right now is one of my strongest brands, is the Lunar. So you heard about that story, right?
I have not.
Dude, so Fratello became the first company ever to land their logo on the surface of the moon. I had a good friend of mine when I was at NASA. His name is Steve Altimus. And he reached out to me about 3.5 years ago and said, "Hey, man, we just landed the next 3 Lunar landed contracts for the agency. And I would love to have a cigar that I can commemorate and that can, celebrate for when we launch and we land on the moon in 2023. That got postponed to 2024, but sure enough, absolutely, this is a no-brainer. There was no payment. I didn't require any payment. I didn't want anything at all. I was just so fascinated to just making it happen. And so the actual brand is called Lunar, right? The Lunar brand itself was one where I sent him a beautiful box that I had presented just for him. Again, not expecting anything in return. I sent him this beautiful humidor. We actually ended up getting, number 3 best packaging of the year for Hot Wheel that year. Should have been number 1, if you know what I mean, but we'll leave that for later on.
Thanks, Charlie.
Exactly. But we ended up getting number 3 best packaging, and he was so grateful that he calls me up and says, "Omar, thank you so much. You really didn't have to do this. Do you mind if I use your logo and I put it on the actual capsule that's going to land on the moon?" And I'm like, "Wait, what?"
That's really cool.
"Yes, please. Can you do that? I beg you." "Yes, absolutely." So now we have our logo that ended up landing, and we're sitting on the surface of the moon. And so if anybody's going to be selling any cigars to aliens, people, it's going to be me.
Okay.
So, but nah, man, that was a batch of pride because literally there's only about 20 some companies that can say that they built something or did something that they created that is sitting on the surface of the moon.
That's really
So
cool.
it's pretty cool, man.
Well, listen, like as always, I learn a lot when I do these videos with my good friends who decide to give us the time of day. So hopefully you guys watching this learned a little bit more about Fratello if you didn't already know it, and check it out on smokingpipes.com and let us know which is your favorite Fratello. So thank you for coming here, buddy.
My brother, cheers.